players are faster, fitter, stronger. We can take it, we prefer it, like from a whole LGFA perspective, it needs to be addressed. You're operating as a professional and you're doing all the things that you'd be doing at home, but this is your full-time job here. At home you're working or you're going between things, you're training in the evening, but then you're up early to go to work. You want to be able to give your all. We're losing the best players, and how are we meant to grow our game if that happens?
Hello and welcome to another episode of the PD Performance Podcast. I am here on the Gold Coast today for a special episode with Gold Coast Suns superstar and Donegal superstar Niamh McLaughlin. We talk about the Irish experiment in Aussie rules. We talk about ladies Gaelic football at home and what we can learn from Aussie rules out here to implement at home. We also talk about Donegal, a tough season so far, and what she's learned in Australia. So now, I hope you enjoy it. And if you do enjoy it, please remember to like it, share it, and send it. Niamh, welcome to the PD Performance Podcast.
Very much. Thanks for having me.
You a bit nervous?
A bit nervous now thinking about it. Eh? No, I'm not too bad. I'm all good.
Yeah, the easiest thing is getting here, I suppose, sitting down. Although I was joking with the staff behind that Donegal is so far away from Dublin that it took me coming to Australia to get you on the podcast.
I know. We tried to arrange it there a few months back, but it just didn't work out. It seemed to have worked out a wee bit easier in Australia for whatever reason.
Yeah, well, I found just go to them, go to the guest, and then it's easier. And then amazing to record here as well, like in the facility, like how convenient.
No, it's good. No, the guys are great here. It was actually one of the other guys who worked at the Suns a few weeks ago. He had the idea across, so we were in Melbourne last week when I was chatting to you, and I said I'd just ask them just the off chance, but no, the guys are very easygoing and good to facilitate it, so good job.
Do you have to do a lot of media here?
No, I don't really. The guys are obviously very good. They're in around training and matches and stuff, and I know from home, like everyone really loves all the social media stuff that they put out. But no, I probably try and avoid it where I can.
You probably do more than you would at home, though.
I think like definitely a lot more pictures, videos, that sort of stuff, and they're always kind of in the background, so you're getting caught doing things maybe that you wouldn't usually at home. But yeah, even just things at training, like messing about. But no, they're real creative, and some of the stuff they put out is quite funny as well, and it's good to see back.
It's interesting coming out and observing, I suppose, what all the different clubs are doing, and it is very similar. A lot of it's like kind of just candid stuff, letting you guys be yourselves.
Yeah, it's a real change from home actually. Just everything here I'd find, especially within the club and the teams, even across the teams, it's real open. So yeah, you're getting an insight into training just by looking at the social media. Everything's real lighthearted, to a sense. Whereas you're looking back at home, even in my own county there, like there's not a hope you'd get any cameras near Convoy or across any of the county teams. So yeah, that's definitely a big change from being at home, and it's a bit more relaxed, and for whatever reason you'd wonder, even though it's a professional environment, but yeah, it seems to work well over here.
Would you say it would be received the same way at home, like the laughing and the joking and the bit of crack? Like
It's funny because last year before I came out, you're looking at all this stuff and you're like, oh God, how am I going to do that? Doesn't suit your personality, or it's just not done at home. And then Lauren McConville there, when she was coming out this year, obviously I'd been chatting to her and I was like, you better get used to it. And she was thinking, no way, I can't do that. Or I'm like, geez, no, that just doesn't suit me at all. And I think when you come out here, you got to embrace it, like, because it's the way things are done, and it is fun as well. And it's as I said, it's a wee bit more lighthearted. And I think, yeah, even at home, even myself, you're probably a bit more highly strung with certain things, and you don't want other people finding out what you're doing. But at the end of the day, it's either you know nothing about anyone or you know everything, and everyone's in the same boat. So yeah, definitely a different kind of environment.
it's funny, like Vicky said that even if there's a loss or even if the team hasn't done well, there's still content put out and there's not an eyelid batted, like, whereas at home,
Yeah.
if imagine a county team put out a bit of content weekly having the crack, how many people would be commenting saying they're not taking it seriously?
Yeah, I know it is so different, and I suppose just it's the way it's always been at home for a sense, and for whatever reason, I don't know why, and I would probably be one of those people at home as well, kind of serious, and you try to keep yourself as strict as possible, or you try and keep things as close to home as you can, but Yeah, it's definitely different, and I don't know. I think at home, people, it's almost people would be like you said, they'd be kind of like rolling their eyes or thinking, "Geez, what's going on here? Do they even care, or are they taking it serious, or what's going on?" But yeah, no, it works over here. You see the guys at the top of the ladder. You see the people who maybe are mid table. You know, everyone's kind of the same in the media here as well. They'll have kind of crack and banter between each other as well. You'll see them slagging off different clubs or whatever it might be as well, and they go back and forth that way. But it is funny as well, and I suppose you see a wee bit of the Premier League, or it's kind of creeping in that way too. But I don't think it's hit the GAA yet. Definitely not. But I think there's a lot to learn from it too, for sure.
But it's funny that you would say that you're one of those that would keep it very serious, because everybody that I spoke to that I told I was coming down to chat to you said that's great, Niamh's gas.
Well, like I think I can float between the both, you know. And definitely at home, I think. God, I don't know. You kind of, just from going in at a young age at county, and being fortunate enough to play at high levels and a couple of codes and stuff, you kind of get that sense for what's needed and what's maybe expected of you. And again, it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's different for everyone, but I think definitely you see two sides to it over here, and it's definitely made me think about things, and maybe not everybody's the same and how they manage themselves at home. But no, I've enjoyed it out here as well, because it doesn't change my outlook in terms of what I want to be and how good you want to be, but maybe you're coming from a different perspective and you can be a bit more relaxed about your playing and your training, but still getting the most out of yourself as well. So it's a good that way.
So is it what you expected coming out from professional sport? Because obviously a lot of the girls that have come out have just played Gaelic football, whereas like you've played association football at a high level in England, so maybe you had a preconception of what it was going to be like out here playing professional sport. Has it been that way, or has it been different?
It is a funny one. I think for me, like, I would like to think that I would operate at a high level no matter what I do from a personal point of view, no matter what kind of circumstance or environment that I've found myself in. I would always try and, operate the same way, get the best out of myself, whether it's playing club football or intercounty football, or being in England for a period of time and then coming over here. So from a personal point of view, I don't think I've changed that way. I think coming out here as well, just you have everything that you need at your doorstep. Even difference from being in England and playing soccer. A few years ago, it was still kind of on the rise there. The biggest thing for me out here is you're operating as a professional, and you're doing all the things that you'd be doing at home, but this is your full time job here, or it's my full time job anyway. And the recovery and everything in between, you kind of have time to get the best out of yourself. Where is it at home, you're working, or you're going between things, you're training in the evening, but then you're up early to go to work. So all that sort of stuff is a big difference, is the biggest difference that I would find between it, you know?
But I would say you were probably quite professional in your approach back home playing football anyway,
Yeah.
Gaelic football, that is,
Yeah.
because more than one ACL reconstruction kind of teaches you that you have to look after your body. And then to be at the top level in multiple different sports, like the value of looking after yourself, not to mention the fact that you're a physiotherapist as well.
Yeah, I think like again for me, I've just probably always been that way, that I've always probably wanted to put myself in the best position possible to try and be the best I can be for myself from a playing point of view, but also to get the most out of the team and give the most back to the team, or in that kind of environment. As I said, I think the environment might change for me, but the way that I am and the way that I act in those different environments probably hasn't altered too much. And yeah, I've probably always been, probably from a young age, having the injury. I was 16 when I first got injured, so I think from a young age, I've probably taught me that you kind of had a choice to make. Like, do you kind of just get on with it and like think, right, this is what I want to do? And like, I love sport, love playing, really enjoyed it. So I always knew I wanted to get back to that. So I think from a young age, as I said, that kind of taught me that discipline. If I wanted to play sport and be the best I can, then that was just something that I had to do and something I had to overcome.
So even though you've done the same things that you'd usually do back home since you've come out, do you think you've benefited as an athlete just because of the availability of resources out here?
Yeah, I think so. And like even today, we were just chatting to a group there, and we were talking about like the availability of even coaches and stuff. And like you can go at home and you can take yourself out with your friends and you can have a kickabout. But here it's your job and that time is there, so it's not as if you're trying to squeeze it in anywhere. You have time filtered in for that throughout the day or throughout the week, and the coaches here are so readily available. And you know, I'm a defender at the minute, so our backline coach has played. So if you approach them and you want to do extra skills, say marking or, you know, body work or whatever it might be, then they're there for that and they're available for it. And for me anyway, I find that getting those tips from people who've been there and played the game as well is really beneficial. And yeah, I think just having that time, not having to worry about work, job, anything else that's going on, it really lets you just focus in on your craft or your skills and whatever it is that you can do. Like you talk about the one percenters and stuff, it's kind of cliche, but that's what it is here. I think that's the difference. You have time for those things, and that's probably where you see the difference from here and maybe at home, you know?
Did it benefit you when you went back this year to play football? To Ireland, obviously, if there's any Australian listeners.
Yeah, like the setup, like as me being a footballer at home.
Did you feel any different on the field as a Gaelic footballer, having played a season out here and trained professionally for a year?
I probably felt it in the legs a wee bit more, but as a footballer, I don't know, like, because again, it's even though there's similarities in the sport, I think for me, being able to sort of park one and focus on the other is a big thing. Like even before I came out last year, I probably struggled with thinking about coming out here before the season was done, because again, you want to be able to give your all and you don't want people thinking that that's going on in the background or you're being distracted. And maybe that's just personal and maybe that's something that was actually not happening. That's just me thinking that. So no, I think I'm pretty good at sort of saying, okay, I'm here now and this is what I'm focusing on. And you have a new set of focuses in team and sport as well.
But there's probably an aspect of it being captain as well. Even if your thoughts go to coming out here, you're probably feeling a little bit guilty and thinking, no, I can't be thinking about that. I'm captain. I have to be full bore Donegal.
Yeah. There probably was like with that initially when I was coming out, even like the announcing and people finding out that I was coming, like there was probably a bit of a rush on for me because someone had contacted me to say, look, I've had a reporter on, they're going to put the story out or whatever, you know, as big as it gets in Ireland. And like, this was like panic stations for me because I still hadn't told as many people as I felt I needed to tell at home. But again, I think like you really build these things. Well, personally, I probably built it up in my head more than I needed to. But it's funny, even like I remember at the time last year when it was kind of coming out, Jennifer Dunn as well. She was in a similar sort of situation, and we had been speaking about it, and she was like, "Yeah, like it was a bit scary, and you're kind of panicking. What are people going to think?" But then it comes out, and people are delighted for you, and that's the way it seemed anyway. That people were happy, and like all the girls were like, "What are you worried about?" Or you know, it's a great opportunity. So yeah, like I think, yeah, being captain or even just being a part of the team, whether I was captain or not, it's making sure that you still have, you know, the people there that you're playing with, that they know that
you're bought in.
That's your focus and you're here for that until the next thing comes around.
I think poor old Vicky got the worst of it, and then after that it's just been something that happens.
Yeah.
So everybody's been kind of like of the opinion of, well, best of luck to them, like they deserve it.
Yeah, I think Vicky obviously, you know, and Meath, the rise that they had, I think really kind of inspired a lot of people at home and even in the GAA. Like it made it much more appealing for people, like Meath coming from where they did. And it wasn't an overnight thing. Obviously they'd built that up over years, and Vicky was obviously one of the kind of superstars, you know, at the time, and still is. Like she's very well recognized, obviously a brilliant player. And there was always chat about Vicky going and doing this, but it was kind of, you know, will she, won't she? And you were kind of just waiting for it to happen. And I was thinking about it too. And Vicky was probably the last one really that it was like big, sort of not shocking news, but like, geez, this is a big thing. Like someone at the top of the game is going to give their hand in another sport. But then after that, when I was thinking, like I can't remember who was kind of sort of next. because as you said, there's been like an influx now, and there's been so many people.
Who's going this week,
Who's
basically?
going this week? And it was nearly like you're waiting for the next person to be announced. So yeah, it was like around that time she probably got the brunt of it. But yeah, after that, it's become a lot more
Normalized.
Yeah, I don't want to say accepted, but yeah, maybe normalized is a better word.
It is accepted though, for the
Yeah.
most part. There's just probably a 1% of begrudgers that if you stayed, they'd be begrudging you anyway.
Yeah. There's always going to be people that don't agree, or people who are going to say what they're going to say. But I think for me, anyway, being here, like I'm looking at girls now, like even Amy Boyd Carr over at Adelaide, like I'm looking at her thinking she's 24 now, and you're thinking, gee, gosh, at the time, if I had this opportunity to be over here, it's like, how can you sort of begrudge someone when you come and experience it yourself? Not that I did, but I'm sort of jealous as well. I'm like, God, I wish you had a few more years at this. Even girls in our team now, they're young, they're 20, 21, even younger, and they're coming straight in now, and that would be ideal. Like that's my ideal of heaven. Like back at that age.
I think when you come over, like I've done in the last couple of years, and you come into these facilities and you see it and you're like just blown away, as well as pairing that with what the ladies' game has had to go through back home, it becomes a no-brainer, like, because I know it's improving at home and I know that all counties are making an effort, but there still are issues. And no doubt there are issues here as well, but they just don't seem to be as apparent when you get to train in a facility like this, train as a professional player. And it seems that the league is doing a lot more to try and push the growth of the female game here than potentially at home. I know they're trying at home, but maybe because all the factions were broken away from each other for so long, it makes it a little bit more difficult, as well as the fact that the male and female seasons run kind of at the same time. The last few weeks since the men's season has finished, and even beforehand, the ability to watch every single AFLW fixture obviously benefits the sport.
Yeah, I think like there was like a bit of a condensed fixture period there, and I think it's still going on now, but I could be wrong, but I think there was a game from like 2 weeks ago, or there was a time from 2 weeks ago where there's going to be an AFL game every single day shown on TV. So yeah, it's definitely probably much more accessible here in terms of that in TV. Again, you have to understand it's a professional environment, and the AFL is a massive, huge organization. Even last year coming over, there was like the CBA, so a collective bargaining agreement between the AFL and the AFLW, a bit similar to the GPA trying to get the integration going on at home. So there was definitely similarities there, and there's definitely work-ons from both at home and here. And obviously, again, appreciating that it is professional here and people are paid, organisers, and everything at home is essentially voluntary most of the time. And Ireland is a much smaller country as well, and it's there's all those things, the obvious things. But yeah, even like the likes of the media stuff, like I wouldn't have been like huge on it before. Not huge on it. Like I enjoyed looking at it, but even at home now, I'm thinking, God, like how do you get the younger girls interacted in like TikTok, social media, all that sort of stuff? They see it, and then they want to be it, or they want to join it, and they want to partake. And I think that's one of the big things as well from here, is like it might be a bit like, oh geez, I'm not too sure about that, but it seems to be working, and it's definitely working here for the wider audience. Even at home, like people are so invested now in the AFLW because there's so many girls out here. And I know obviously like people are like, oh, we're losing players, or we're losing the best players, and how are we meant to grow our game if that happens? But it also probably works both ways as well, because these girls, like some of the girls are coming back, some of the girls will go for a few seasons, come back, whatever it is. But it also, if they didn't have the GAA, we also wouldn't be here. So it kind of goes both ways. I think it's a funny one, but
we're not losing all of you permanently. Like you were still playing this year, as were a lot of girls, and getting to train as a professional athlete and bringing back professional standards to the GAA. Even though it's an amateur game, each county's still trying to win, no more so than yourselves in Donegal. So like, it's only going to benefit the growth of the game back home, you girls coming out here, as well as you said, young girls seeing you guys coming out. I chatted to Erica a couple of weeks ago, and she said that her hero growing up was Orlo Dwyer. And she had said when she was like 17 that she wanted to go and play in the AFLW, and she plays in the AFLW now. How many other young girls are saying that at home, but they can't really play Aussie rules, but they'd still know that, well, I can play football or I can play camogie, and there's still a pathway for me to get there if I want to get there, but I'm going to enjoy playing these sports while I'm here as well, because Niamh Mac plays football and Eric O'Shea plays football and Orla Dwyer plays camogie and plays football as well. Like, so I don't think that's necessarily much of an issue anymore, because there's what, 32 of you or 34 of you?
30 something anyway. Yeah, there's a good enough for a team anyway, enough for a squad.
And there's rumours that there could be a squad coming soon where you play against the Australians. Like, and how good is it to see Jarlath Burns down here as well? Like,
he was at the grand final. Yeah, I seen that. Obviously, I think there was like the state games were on around Melbourne and stuff. So yeah, definitely. Like, I can't remember who it was I was chatting. It might have been, we actually met up. There was like an Irish kind of function on the Monday, like the Monday nights ago, and they were saying like, "Oh, it'll be interesting to see now if Katy Perry's playing in the All Ireland final now in July next year." But I don't know what you get. But we were saying, we were like, "What about Dermot Kennedy or something?" Like, we were like, "Geez, he might be up for it." Like, I think one of the girls had mentioned that. I can't remember, but like, it's definitely a spectacle, and I think at home too. As I said, those kind of things, like, you wouldn't even think of that. They'd be like, Jesus, no, you can't have Katy Perry playing before Kerry and Galway or whoever it might be. But obviously it's getting a lot more popular, and the combine is on, and there's Irish guys over there now, you know, making top 10 and different things. And I think it's probably something that it's going to happen anyway. So trying to get some sort of good relationship with it is going to be key.
But it's class for him in the position he is in as president to be so progressive, and he is so progressive. And I'm just thinking, like, it is changing. We might say it's changing slowly, but it's changing nonetheless and gradually. And I'm just thinking, like, if this was 3 or 4 years ago and you were just playing for Donegal, would I have got you on the podcast?
Oh, yeah. Sure, probably.
Maybe. But there's a lot of players that have come on that have been nervous coming on, and I probably wouldn't have. So we are getting there.
Yeah.
It's just like little by little.
Yeah.
But it's been, and this is the other thing as well that has happened at home. With the backdoor cut, often if a team is going poorly or a team has just lost, the lads have been more unwilling to come on, and managers have been unwilling to let them come on. Whereas obviously the year hasn't been great for you girls, but you're still willing to come on and chat. That's different to home, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it probably is, and I don't know why, and couldn't really say for sure, but I think it's probably like the perception at home as well, and having coming out, had the experience, sort of thinking, "Jeekers, does it need to be the way it is? Can you still be a bit of both?" Is probably one thing that I've learned as well. And yeah, I think like maybe it comes with a wee bit of experience, being a bit older, having gone, not gone through it, but having played at that level. And, as you said, being a part of teams where you're like, no, I don't want to be seen to be saying this. I don't want to be seen having a laugh on a podcast or giving any secrets away or whatever it is. Like, there's no real secrets anymore. It's like even one thing out here I found was like last year, one of our girls got injured when we were in finals, and like the announcement was like up the next day being like, she's out, she can't play. Whereas at home it would be like, call it as the team's been named out over the tannoy. Like, it's like, keep it a secret as best you can. But I think that's one of the things out here, there's no secrets, so everybody knows everything, which is kind of the same as everybody knowing nothing. It's like everyone knows who the players are, everyone knows who's going to play, where they're going to play, whatever that might be. Out here as well, it's just such a relaxed lifestyle. Like, the Aussies are so laid back, and they love their sport, and they're very, very intense in their sport, but also they can do the both. Whereas at home, maybe we struggle to separate the two at times. Some people are good at it, some people maybe are not, and as I said, it works different for different people. But yeah, like you're saying about me coming on the podcast a few years ago, probably not. Like, I'd be like, geez, no, it's the middle of the championship. And that's probably from me thinking, what are other people going to think, rather than from a personal point of view more than anything,
What comes to mind when you mentioned there about mentioning if someone's injured the day after they've become injured and they're not being secrets is this weird thing in the GA that never has made sense to me, where both teams name
Start
the
reflecting.
wrong championship team, and then both teams are in their meeting the night before the championship saying, don't mind that, he or she is not playing there, he's playing here. Like, everybody knows what the other team is doing nonetheless, so we just waste so much time
Yeah.
trying to keep secrets, whereas realistically, like, as you said, there's not really that many secrets. Like, I remember Owen said on the podcast one day, I think it was one of our first episodes, he stopped himself and he said, what were you going to say there? And he said, oh, I just didn't want to give too much away. I was going to say that I try and get forward for cornerback. And then Dara just said, why do you think you're the only cornerback in the country that tries to get forward onto the ball?
Yeah, yeah,
It's a lot of our own thinking that limits us, I suppose, in terms of what is available to us and growing the game. Because we're always talking about growing the game, especially growing the female game
yeah,
or the ladies game. And then you've got to do things like this if you want to grow it.
yeah.
And as well as that, players probably get more out of these conversations when somebody comes on having lost than when they're winning. So, like, to focus on this season, which hasn't been going to plan, I'd imagine, like, what have you been learning? Has it been frustrating, and has it been different to what you've experienced in the past?
I think like with this team, last year we got to finals for the first time, um, and like last year was my first year playing AFL as well, so I have nothing really to compare that to. But obviously you want to be at the back end of the season or as close to it as possible, and then naturally, like the year goes on, you think, right, you sit down, you have your review. What did we do well? What can we get better at? And obviously, like I missed pre-season because I'm at home playing. But I know like pre-season was really good, and there's always going to be improvements, and sport always doesn't go to plan. Of course, there's no point beating around the bush. Like, it's a difficult place to be, not winning games. Obviously, when that happens, you start to, maybe the pressure maybe rises a bit as each game comes. Maybe you put yourself under a bit more pressure, and the team becomes a bit more under pressure, whether that's self-inflicted or whether that's from the outside. I think for me anyway, probably having experienced it in a few different environments. Like, my focus anyway, and the team's focus over the last few weeks and since the start of the season is, okay, can we just try and improve on different things each week, and that's the main goal. Where are the improvements and where are the work-ons? And like, obviously we'd prefer to be winning games, but it's a good learning experience, and I think like that's only going to make you stronger as well. Again, like, real cliche, but you either have to ride the waves, or you kind of sink or swim, and we just have to keep trying to get better each week, and and both individually and then also as a team. And it is difficult, but you can't spend too much time when you're in the middle of the season, as such a condensed season that this is already. And I think it's just trying to get that across, and trying to just bring that through the team as best you can as well. And the girls are really good that way. As I said, it's a very positive culture, and even though it's laid back, like, sports real intense here, and it's like any team environment, you just want the best. And yeah, so I think definitely a lot of learnings, and I think that's the way we kind of have to look at it. It's like, okay, how can we learn from previous games, and how can we improve and move forward? Not everything's going to be perfect, but yeah, I suppose you have a choice. You can either feel sorry for yourself, or just get on with it, and just try and focus on the next week or the next game, whatever that is.
Is that state of mind new for you? Because from conversations I've heard you have in the past and interviews, it seemed that you would have been somebody that put a lot of pressure on yourself in the past. Whereas my interactions with you over the last few weeks, I've been surprised with how relaxed you've been.
I think so, and I think it's funny because, like, not that like GEA and AFL is different, but I think for me anyway, coming over here, learning a new sport, not knowing what way it was going to go, I probably had to make the decision then that don't put too much pressure on yourself, because this could be an absolute disaster. And you maybe it's not like it's a free hit, but it's like, okay, I've never played this before. I don't know how it's going to go. Give yourself a bit of leeway. But at the same time, I'm that kind of person that you want to be as competitive as possible. Like I always want to try and be as best I can. So it's almost like, right, I don't want to let this beat me either. And you want to try and get good. And once you get the hang of it, okay, can I get better? Can I get better? And then with that, then maybe when you are getting a bit better or you're improving on different things, the expectation becomes a little bit higher. So maybe there is a little bit more pressure with that. Whereas at home, maybe that expectation has maybe been there a lot longer. So you feel that a bit more. And again, it's just probably your expectations for yourself. Like at home, you play football all your life, so people know you. People know maybe what you're capable of. You're looking around to try and, as I said, you're playing for people that you've always played with, so there's that expectation. Whereas here now, as I said, last year it was like, oh, I don't know how this is gonna go. Went pretty good. Came back for second year and thinking, right, I'm not like where I was last year, and you're looking forward to coming back and just kind of looking forward to coming back and not starting off where I had started last year. So you have that wee bit of a base. But yeah, I think like definitely I've probably learned to lessen that, not lessen the expectation, but accept that it's not going to be perfect. And I probably in the past was wanting everything for myself to be perfect on the field or on the pitch or whatever. And it's not realistic.
When you came out, you probably didn't know what perfect even looked like as well.
I hadn't a clue. And even with the rules and stuff as well, like that's a complete like whatever about the skills and stuff. It's like trying to learn as you go, and you throw yourself in at the deep end. And it was really like it was tough, but it was really enjoyable as well. And it was when I look back at it, like you're thinking, oh God, like disaster or giving away 50s or whatever it might be. And like the one thing that was said was like, don't give away a 50. It was like, don't give away 50s. Like at home, don't get a red card or don't give away a penalty. And then give away like two in one game or something. And you're thinking, oh my God, like it's live on TV. And everyone's like, oh, the Irish girl doesn't know the rules or whatever it is. And um, but yeah, you just kind of think, oh well,
You won't do that
it
again.
is what it is, and I won't do that again. Like you learn as you go, and thankfully, not too many more after that.
It's interesting looking at your stats though, because I wanted to ask you if you feel like you're starting to get to grips with the game now, because at the start, like it's almost linear. You had loads of handballs and not that many meters, and like no kicks, like very few kicks. And now looking at your stats, there's almost been a gradual rise of meters carried going up, less handballs and more kicks. So I know you've had a change of position as well, but do you feel like you're understanding the game a lot better now than you did at the start?
Yeah, like definitely. I think like the more you play, the more you understand, and like until you come out when you're watching it at home, it's completely different. Like until you're here and you start to understand what's going on, and then you watch it, you're like, oh, I can see what that's happening. Like even my parents and my sister, like they're kind of like, people are like, what is going on here, and it's not until you come out and you understand, you're thinking, oh, that's what that is, and this is what we're trying to do. I didn't know that about the stats, but it's fun. It probably is funny about the handball because at home that's what's natural to you, and I think the big thing for me was obviously the mark is an advantage, so a kick from a mark, so a 15-meter kick, but maybe I was trying to handball it and then I'm putting my teammate into trouble. She can get tackled or she's not, it's not an advantage to them. My understanding from that point of view has changed. But I think the kicks, I didn't really know. Like it's definitely something that I wanted to try and improve on. Like, and you pick the kick trying to get the kick in was obviously quite difficult at the start. But then once you get it, once you get the feel for it, you kind of realize what it should feel like. That's the way I felt with it anyway. So when I came back this year, I didn't find it as difficult, even though I probably hadn't done as much kicking back at home. Yeah, probably understanding the game and also just trying to bring maybe what they brought me over here for in the first place is like your run and carry, your speed, that sort of stuff. And then also having that connection with people on the field. So you try and build that up over time, but then getting to know the players that you're playing with too makes it a lot easier or I find makes it a lot easier for my decision making on the field. Whereas last year, it's a completely different team for me, different players. What do they know? What do they like? And you have to learn quite quickly. But probably from last year to this year, there's a lot of the girls still here. So understanding what maybe they want, what they like, and I suppose them understanding me and how I play as well. And that's all part of it too.
You've spoken in the past about how playing association football, geez, we have so many footballs here, I have to
I
term
know.
them all, soccer benefited you in terms of like relating to your teammates, so like understanding what they want and what they want and what you want, and that's benefited you out here. Your tackles have also been going up, and you've spoken in the past about physicality in ladies Gaelic football at home, and probably a rule change being necessary there. Have you enjoyed the physical aspect of the game? Are you still enjoying it?
Yeah,
And
like
do you think we need a change still at home?
it's funny because like tackling is like I'm a defender here. It's something that's not natural probably to me at home. And like just even from being a defender, and I've said this to a few of the girls at home, I'm like, you've so much more, not that you didn't have respect, but you're just thinking, God, having to concentrate on someone and, running around after them. And then you're also trying to read the game, but look at them and, all these sorts of things. But I would say like I'm quite a physical player anyway at home now and can hold my own. But definitely the tackling is a big, it just doesn't come natural to footballers, and especially like the wrapping the arms. And I'm a bit smaller as well. So trying to actually wrap your arms around someone who's, we've a few
Beanpole.
fairly big girls in the league, like tall and that sort of stuff. But it is still a work on for me. Like it's definitely not where it needs to be. And it's something that I think that I need to get better at. It's not getting stepped and, trying to really follow through. And I suppose it's the focus on that. I think definitely at home, like one of the girls was asking about the sport there recently, and we were like, "Oh, it's non-contact, but it's not non-contact," and she's like, "What?" Like and it's so difficult to explain because it's so subjective as well, and
Depends who's reffing that week.
depends who's ref in that week, and it is very difficult because your perception of contact is different from mine and whatnot. But at home, you wouldn't mind as much if it was a bit more consistent throughout games and between
Mm-hmm.
games. But even, coming down to Division 2 this year, like you see the games being refereed differently. And then you go to junior and you see it being there's no contact allowed at all. But like I don't really think it benefits anyone because when the girls move up or the teams move up, it's you have to change how you play or what's who's like when certain refs are going to ref, okay, right, they're going to let it go, or when they don't, then they don't let it go. But then sometimes you're like, oh, I don't know what they're going to do these days. So
It doesn't even benefit the referee.
it doesn't benefit the red referee because everyone gets frustrated, and like I'd be one of them as well, definitely. And it really doesn't benefit the referee, which is why I think from a whole LGFA perspective, it needs to be addressed. And yeah, I still don't know why we're kind of hiding or shying away from it because girls are faster, fitter, stronger. We can take it. We prefer it. Like, well,
No, I
most
think
girls
most
would.
would.
Most would, and it helps the spectacle as well. And it's not that you want it probably to the level of the AFL because it is real physical, but
But sometimes a football match, a Gaelic football match, can have more stoppages in it than
oh,
an AFL game because of how it's being refereed
yeah,
and how strict
exactly.
they're being.
Yeah,
And that doesn't benefit anyone.
no,
It doesn't benefit as a spectacle. It doesn't benefit the supporter. Like, it's not going to grow the game.
no, definitely not. And I think that's where the biggest frustration is probably the rules at the minute. But the rules here are funny. Like, you'd have a joke that you can literally be battering someone, but if you tap them on the back, it's like free kick. And like that's the stuff that I'm still getting used to. I'm like even at the weekend, I was like, what? Like I was like, no, that couldn't be. Like because I think now I know all the rules, but
At least when you're playing, you
and the
do.
girls are like, no, that was a free kick, and I was
Back me up.
like, but yeah. But there's no here as well. There's no back chat to the umpires or the refs or anything, and obviously the 50-meter rule. And
Are you struggling with that?
no, like I'd be quite vocal at home, like on the field, but like here it's just not accepted. So I think it's really good, and that it takes that focus away from you. You're not getting wound up. Like you can get annoyed, but it's not as if because if you say anything, you're 50 meters up the field. Like
Imagine bringing that in at
yeah,
home. It would solve a lot of
it would
issues.
solve a lot of issues. And even if there's like fights going on in the field, the umpires just leave it and let it fizzle out because nothing is done there and then. It's all retrospective. And only if you like actually strike or do something like that will you get a ban. But by the looks of things, you can push and shove all you want.
And the fans like that as well, so they do. They like a bit of
Yeah, they
argy-bargy. And
do.
look,
And I think
some people
like
play the game that way as well.
yeah, it's not very often that something really bad actually
Yeah.
happens here, as far as I can see. And sure, if the referee at home, if there was something going on, like a Tyrone Armagh game or something like that, and there's like, what if he just goes on and plays? Like, they're probably going to stop anyway, you know? Well, maybe, but
I'm not going to say anything. But I saw a couple of clips from a county championship game at the weekend of fouls that were given, yellows or ticks, and like they were hard fouls. But I think the difference is, I suppose, all games are televised here, so they can be looked at retrospectively.
Mm.
Whereas at home, you don't always have that benefit. Also, sometimes your linesmen are 70 plus, so
Yeah.
they can't see everything. So there are some things that go on out here that we can't do at home. But one thing that keeps being said to me since I've come out is, why are the Irish girls so fast?
Yeah.
And the lad said it when I came in here, that they love watching you because of your speed and the side steps. And I remember chatting to you I'd say that was last year actually, and you said it's really easy to sidestep out here because a lot of the girls just
I'll be
don't know what you're going to do.
getting smashed now in the next game. But it was funny actually. One of the girls said to me the other day, Katie, in the change room before the game, she was like, "I meant to ask you, like, are all Irish people just real fast?" And we were like, "No, it's just like here. It's obviously the game is started like loads of stoppages. Get up the field, get it into the stoppage, get it out, keep getting your territory." But we obviously just see grass and just head for it. Now I've nearly been caught a few times. Probably have been caught like holding the ball because I'm going and maybe someone's caught up behind me. Even I was saying about the tackling, like because I'm not as used, because you have to stop before you get to someone, and you physically, it's not natural to keep running through someone for me.
Mhm.
So people, I end up being sidestepped as well, or people getting away from me, or I'm getting an arm in. For me, running at speed into open space, one on one, like there's so many options for me to go either side. So, and they're just in the middle of no man's land
Mhm.
half the time. But it's good because it brings a different option as well. And it maybe instead of a kick, I can carry it a little bit further and still have possession. Whereas maybe sometimes if we kick and we're trying to get territory, okay, we'll kick and we'll try and create that stoppage up there. But it is good when it opens up. That's why I like the halfback, because I can see what's ahead of me. And yeah, try and find those gaps, or can you burst through? But it doesn't always work. But when it does, they like it here. But
But almost every team has one Irish player in and around the middle that does performs that
that'll
role.
do it.
And
Yeah,
it was funny, like when Ailish signed last year, it was almost, well, from everybody at home, like it was common knowledge that she was going to excel because that's what she did for Dublin when
yeah,
she was playing football. She carried the ball. So it was funny then when she scored a goal after 15 seconds
yeah,
from doing it, and she's been thriving. I don't think we're capped at 32 or 34 or whatever it's at. I think there's going to be more coming out
yeah,
rather than there being a drop off anytime soon.
yeah. I think it is. I think it is going to get more difficult for girls as well, though, to try and come out. Like the AFLW is relatively new, and there's girls maybe that have on our team that have only taken the sport up at 25, 26, 27, maybe even a little bit older. So they haven't, like, we've played football from a real young age, whereas maybe they've come from other sports, like not
Hmm.
necessarily field sports. You'll find now all of the younger girls coming through who've had academy, who've had a bit more, you know, naturally the skill level and the quality can get a bit better, and still obviously a lot of very good footballers as well who have just come into the sport maybe a bit more recently. But if you're playing it from a younger age, your skill set and your ability is probably gonna, when the longer you spend doing something, the better you're gonna be naturally probably at it. Not always the case, but I think like the way the game is also developing as well, like teams are playing, or maybe the better teams are playing a lot more of a running game, maybe trying to kick less into stoppage and play a bit more similar to the men, a bit more maybe like football at home, a bit more free flowing. And if they're doing that from a younger age, then they're going to end up a little bit more similar to maybe us coming out here. They're talking about expanding the season, making it a bit longer. So does that mean that the season starts earlier?
Mm.
Like there was kind of whispers of that happening. So will that put people off? Clubs want people out in March, April, whatever that might be. That'll change things. So I think definitely now girls see that pathway and they see, God, like Neve's doing that, like I could definitely do that, or but I could give it a go. But I think it will become difficult, a lot more difficult as well. So I don't know, and they don't know the answers to that yet either. Like in terms of the league and stuff.
And they'll figure it out. And I think the answer with these condensed match weeks, and the amount of fixtures that you're playing, I think the answer is to start a little bit earlier, at least a couple of weeks earlier, if possible. But one thing that I heard one of the commentators speaking about, I was watching Hawthorne and Geelong, and there was a stage where It was like 4 Irish scorers in a row, and the commentator was talking about how playing Gaelic football at home actually benefits you guys coming out here. It's an advantage over the Australian players out here. And I just thought that was funny because it's almost seen as a negative for the men that they've played Gaelic football because they can't grasp that you're not meant to handball it all the time. You're not meant to run it out. You're meant to kick it for territory. Whereas the game is becoming more running based, I suppose. But also, it seems like the skills of catch and kick are, in some of the girls at least, better developed. Like Aileen is kicking goals from outside 50. Ashling Maloney, I don't know if it's possible to score any more goals than she's scoring. Like, so is there a coordinative aspect that you feel like you girls have an advantage over the Aussies?
I don't know, like, I think again it comes from us having always done it from a younger age, like, which wasn't always like whatever Ashling is, 27, like she's been playing football since whatever. But maybe girls of a similar age have only been playing football 3 or 4 years. Even the girls who are maybe 19, 20, potentially they've only been playing since they're 15, 16. So plus Gaelic football is like, it's like the number one. It's like there's not as many, like out here it's so many sports as well. And um I think, yeah, like having that base of skills for us is massive. And obviously, like a lot of the girls in the league now are would have been like at the top of their game at home. So already a very high skill set, natural ability as well is a massive part of that. Plus you can cover the ground quickly, fast, whether you're tall, whether you're small, whatever you are. Probably the likes of Ashleen as well, like she's a key forward. So a tall, real tall, who can have a good pair of hands, but she can cover the ground brilliantly as well. And like the bounce of the ball is just, she's judging it perfectly, and it's just coming up into her hands, and then she's snapping goals from like the pocket and all this sort of stuff, like inside of the boot, which is more natural for us anyway. So I think, like, yeah, a lot of the girls who are over here, like Aileen and the girls who are doing quite well, were the girls who are like real, a lot of the girls were all the top players at home as well, real big players for their counties, and already had that skill level and that natural ability, which helps. And then game smarts as well, which also helps too, and maybe bringing a little bit of something different that they're not used to here. So it's like, oh my god, what's that? Like even listening to that game, I think it was the Hawthorn and Geelong game as well, and the commentators are like, these Irish girls have just so much skill. It's like they're surprised. Like, and I'm like, and then when we make a mistake, sometimes it's like, oh, these
They
Irish
don't know
girls
what
and
they're
their
doing.
rules, oh, like, probably more when I'm doing stuff, but um it's almost like they're surprised, like it's like that's what we do at home, like. But yeah, there's always stuff that we can improve on, that the other side of the game as well, like the tackling, like the structure, the setups, probably like from a tactical and technical point of view, which was a bit more challenging for me as well. So there's always things that you can bring from home, and I think that's why they bring us out as well, because we offer something a bit different.
Mhm.
And then it's trying to adapt as best you can to the new game and their game, but also not forgetting why
Why
maybe
you
you're
came
here
out.
as well.
It seems like they let you be yourself. The reason that they bring you out, they don't want to beat it out of you, to use Connor Whelan's words on the backdoor cut. He said, like, sometimes in the GA, when you go into an inter-county setup, the reason they bring you in is almost coached out of you in favor of structure and low risk. It doesn't seem to be the way over here as much. Maybe because there's quite a bit of investment to bring you out here,
Yeah, well,
as
that's one
opposed
thing.
to bringing you in from somewhere in Galway.
Yeah, no, that to be fair, like here, like they've always been so good to me, and I suppose that's maybe why I can express myself a bit more in the field, because Cam said to me, like, I don't want to really overcoach you. I don't really want to try and change you. He was like, play, and then we can try and reel in what we need to, or top up on other things or whatever. But like, as I said, they've been really good to me in terms of like taking the game on, is what they would call it, because like I'll just go. I'll see a gap and just go, or try a kick pass or whatever it might be. Whereas at home it's like, Jesus, don't be kicking that in there, or and even like I would have been guilty of that myself too. It's like, frig, how many balls did I kick away today? Or you know, you're giving off because someone's kicking footballs in when it's not on, and like I'd be the same. I'd be kicking it in when it's not on, or like I always remember when I was playing soccer in England, like one of the coaches had said to me, "Stop trying to do the Hollywood pass all the time," and I probably was guilty of that as well, instead of just finding an easy one. But I think over here as well, because we bring a little bit something that's a bit more different, they want you to try and express yourself, and if it works, great. But for me as well, like a lot of my stuff is like offensive, but I need to remember as well, like I'm a defender first and foremost, and that's my number one job for the team. And then if I can try and bring those other things, then happy days too.
But I think the difference might be as well that when you were playing soccer, the Hollywood pass that you were seeing, the defender was also seeing it because they were also a soccer player. Whereas I can't remember who said it. It could have been Sarah that said it, that you girls just have a different vision for the game out here. So you see something completely different to what your teammates might see or your opponents might see.
Yeah.
So the Hollywood pass that you're seeing, they're not even thinking about, I suppose, out here.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I suppose it's that kind of connection with people as well, and they're getting to know me, or I'm getting to know what they like and what they want. And yeah, I might see something, but if it's not the best option for the team at that time, or the player, or it's not going to benefit them, then you have to adapt and you have to change as well. But they've been very good to me here, that they've not tried to take any of that stuff away from me. But I, because of that leeway, then, like, I think for me, it's really trying to focus in on what my number one job is and what they need from me as well. So yeah, they're giving me the leeway to do that, or the fun stuff, whatever it is, the stuff that looks good. But like,
Don't forget your role.
yeah, get your grit between your teeth and just defend, like, and that's something that I need to improve on too.
The last podcast potentially that you did at home was with Thomas and Ushin for the GA Social, and that was before you came out here. And the chat was around how it was too good of an opportunity to turn down, and that you were excited to get out and just see what happens. So did that hold true? Because it sounds like you've really enjoyed it out here.
Yeah, no, I have. And see, at the time when I was saying that, I was probably just saying that because I felt like I needed to say it. I was like, but really, I was like panicking about it. But no, I have loved it, and just the lifestyle and everything, and just being a part of it. And like, it's a great squad of people, and the people that I've met here, the staff, everyone. It's like just the whole experience has been class. And yeah, I think like at home too, it's nice because people can see you doing well and enjoying yourself. And it's nice for people at home too, to see people from home doing well. And yeah, no, like I've really enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed the challenge as well of it. And said this year's not been perfect, and obviously you'd hope to be improving from last year. But I think at the same time, it's like, you have to kind of ride with it too, and just keep a good focus on it, or a good sort of headspace around it. The guys were asking me on the podcast, like, because had said about me worrying about it, and I think like just kind of worry a wee bit less and just kind of more enjoy yourself. And again, I think that comes with being a bit older, having a bit more experience, and I suppose seeing those girls now, that I'm like, God, I'm jealous of them being 23 and being out here and doing all that stuff.
And also, if there's a perspective or a positive to take out of this year not exactly going to plan, it's that it's a new experience for you because you've been quite successful at home with the county.
Yeah, well, like, it's funny because it was a tough enough year with Donegal too, but and even last year,
It's
um,
good that you say it's funny
yeah,
because it has been a tough 12 months, like
yeah,
from a
yeah,
team perspective.
yeah,
And that's what's funny, is that you seem so much more relaxed.
yeah, yeah. Like, definitely, there's always going to be challenges, and it was a tough year. Like, and it's tough at home when you're not winning, or you're not as successful as you want were. But like, swings and roundabouts, it comes back round again. And yeah, I think like, just as I said, the lifestyle over here, the environment, it's a bit more laid back, so you can relax into it a little bit more and look back on that stuff. And yeah, of course, you'd want it to go better, but it's not the end of the world either. And yeah.
Okay, we're going to move on to quick fire questions to finish. First one is proudest achievement to date.
Um, I think probably just after the injuries and stuff, just being able to get back to a level that I'm happy to be at, and yeah, getting back from that the three injuries and getting back to county and getting back to, like, I always sort of felt like I never really wasn't who I was previously, which is good. And then, the opportunities that came with that then. So yeah, I think just coming back from the injuries and being able to play well and enjoy myself.
That's interesting though, because younger players will be thinking you're going to say winning players player of the year, but it's not actually that. It's going through a challenge and coming out the other side.
Yeah, I think that's just perspective as well on it all. And it happened to me at such a young age, and quite a young age, and then a few years later down the line. And for me, anyway, it was just something I had to do to get back to where I wanted to be, and something that I really got so much enjoyment out of. And yeah, and that's more important, like playing and enjoying yourself for me. And obviously, like, don't get me wrong, you want to win and be competitive as well. And I'd love to have a few Brendan Martins, but you don't.
Not yet.
Not yet, but hopefully in the future maybe. But yeah, no, I think for sure just that sort of stuff's more important.
Favorite athlete of all time?
I was thinking about this one. I don't think I have a favorite athlete. Like, there's a few people that I look at and I think, oh, there's someone that you look at probably across different sports, and the way they go about themselves. And like, a funny one is probably like someone like Denise O'Sullivan, who I used to play with as well, Katie McCabe, those kind of girls. But then there's people at home as well that I would have looked at home in terms of playing football. Like, I've always said, I've looked at Niamh Higgerty and I used to love her when I was younger. And then you think that these people are old, but they're only like 3 or 4 years older than you. So playing with those kind of people, yeah, like I think Roy McIlroy as well is pretty cool at the minute for all the stuff that he's been through, and maybe not reaching the expectation that people have of him, but still being in the top 2 or 3 for the last 10 years is crazy. I think he's had a pretty hard time over the last few years, but has always kind of come back as well.
I'm a big Rory fan. The lads take the piss out of me for it. They're always trying to wind me up that he never wins anything. But like,
Pretty good, hey, to come back from all, like, not come back, but
just be there
just be there.
every week.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's harder done, I would say, than the once-off wins, and it will happen eventually. But how good? Like, you couldn't think of a favorite athlete, so we got 5.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's what we want. What's the biggest thing that you've learned in the last 12 months?
I think the Aussies have a good saying out here, it's stress less. And I think that's probably a big thing for me, is just stress less on the small things, and just roll with it. Yeah, stress less probably.
What would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Stress less probably as well. No, I think just enjoy it and just take what comes, the opportunities, all that sort of stuff, not worrying so much. And like, from a sporting point of view, then I've been quite lucky to be able to play a few different sports, and probably at the time you're wondering, geez, how am I going to do this or how am I going to do that? But it's all worked out pretty well. So
A lot of growth in the last 12 months then.
over the last few years, to be fair, yeah, I think just probably getting to know yourself a bit better, and said just that experience and stuff, and chatting to different people, maybe with a similar mindset, the opportunities that you get as well. It's like, you're just so lucky, like, here in the Gold Coast. Like, I wouldn't have thought it 5 or 6 years ago. If you had asked me, I think, no way, like, that couldn't be me. Too small, not strong enough, all this sort of stuff, But yeah, definitely.
Well, thanks for sharing all your experience that you've gained in the last few years with us today, Niamh. It's been a pleasure.
Very much for having me.